Welcome to Motion Teaching, where I teach the essential 5% of After Effects for designers and creators. Tutorial 3, Logo Reveals, VCU. Okay, so this logo animation I think is a great example of something that needs to be reused and adapted for different words. As in this case, it would be this different schools inside VCU, which is my alma mater. So I brought this into Illustrator first, and I just want to show you the layers that I used and how I cut it up. I selected the columns inside the seal to be its own layer. So everything inside the actual seal is its own layer, along with the Virginia Commonwealth University words on the outer rim to be their own layer, and also the circle itself with the black and yellow colors, along with each letter, just to have it separated out as its own layer. And then I have the School of Population Health, which we can then use as a placeholder for other schools on its own layer. So I think the important part is the seal itself has a bunch of different layers, so I can kind of mess around with what happens with the animation. Because the way that I see it, if I was going to be given this job is to animate this logo coming in, I would do a lot with the seal first. And me personally, just because it's a circle, I like to have the idea of it rotating just a little bit at the beginning. So that's what I'll show you in After Effects right now. Okay, so here we are in After Effects, and I've brought the logo in with the different layers. And first of all, I want to just put this composition frame size into an HD size, so we can start from there. So I'm going to go into Control or Command K and just change this composition to be HD. There we go. I'm just going to use the transparency grid for now. Now obviously this is not going to be this big if it was going to be a TV spot to animate this logo reveal. So I want to just find something that I can parent everything to. So first thing I'm going to do is add a null object and use that as the placement and scale null for all of these different layers. So I'll do that, go to Layer, New, Null Object. It doesn't matter where it's really placed. You could very easily just leave it in the center of the screen and use that to place everything. But for me, like, I know that this is going to be the beginning of the animation is the seal itself. So I'm just going to place it. I don't need to put it exactly in the middle, but I'm just going to place it in the middle of the seal circle. And then I'm going to parent everything to that. Call this placement null, and then use position and Shift S to do scale. I'm just going to put it in the middle first. So I'm going to use the crosshairs inside the title and action safe overlay. So I'm going to put it right now in the middle like this, and then kind of scale it up a little bit. So we can actually use the placement null later to animate the entire logo, while also being able to animate individual layers themselves. So I'm going to turn off the School of Public Health layer right now. I'm also going to turn off the VCU layers. Now we have the seal circle, the words, and the columns in the middle. Now what I'm going to do right now, because I know that they're all going to move together, I'm going to take the columns and the words layers and parent them to the seal circle. So the seal circle is going to become kind of the main layer that we're going to do a lot of the animation to. I'm also just going to change the colors of this to be yellow, so we know that this is the seal circle. So really what I want to do is kind of simple. Just like, I want to have these words rotate just a little bit. Like they're going to start like right here and then just kind of move in to placement right here as part of the initial intro. I'm going to do that first just to get a quick animation done. So I hit the stopwatch. I know it's going to end right here, so I have that ending keyframe, and I'm just going to move it a little bit like that, and then go into the graph editor in the speed graph, which is fine because I just want to have it ease a little bit into that final position, just like that. Nice little ease like that. It could actually be just a little bit less of a rotation value. Just a nice little subtle movement like that. That's really nice. Okay, I'm going to move these keyframes down just for now. And I just kind of want, so what I'm going to start with for the seal circle is I'm just going to have it scale up really quickly as the intro. So now that I have these parented to the seal circle, I'm just going to use this one, this scale parameter in here to make the animation. So I'll hit the scale for the final position, and I'm just going to go to the beginning and then type in 0. So it's just going to come up from 0% scale like that. And obviously I'm going to move this in at some point to move it all together. And then from there, I'm just going to go into the graph editor for scale, go to the value graph. I'm just going to ease it in right now, like that, by hitting the easy ease button. Like that. It's way too slow, but that's kind of the idea. I also I want to do another thing too, is I want to have it pop on. Like I want to have it scale up quickly and go past 100% and then come back down to 100% to end. So I'm just going to get a little bit behind the last keyframe, and then I'm just going to type in 110%. So now basically it goes like that, like it pops up and then comes back down to 100%. And then I can just go into the second keyframe and just kind of finesse this a little bit like that. There we go. And then for the columns part, I'm just going to do the same thing for the columns. I'm just going to give it a little bit of an offset too. So I'm going to keep it, I'm actually going to scale down from right here, kind of like that, and have that also pop on. So maybe like 105% instead of 110%. And then ease that second keyframe like that. Okay, that's a lot going on right there. I'm just going to match these up now. So it's very subtle. You can see how it kind of bulges almost and then comes back down. I'm just going to go back in here and ease this final keyframe too for the columns. There we go. Awesome. And then just going to move this rotation like that. That's kind of nice. I'm actually, now that I see it, I'm just going to increase the amount of rotation at the beginning. There we go. That's nice. And then what I want to do is have this seal move to the left, and by doing that it'll reveal the VCU underneath it. And we can use track mats for that. And we can also use the placement null to animate that move over. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like right now. So we know that we're going to start right here, and then it's going to move over to make room for VCU. So it's a really simple animation with the placement null, like that. And if I turn back on the VCU, it's kind of like that. Because the VCU is smaller than the circle, we can actually have it, if I just select these, I'll show you. We can have it come from behind like this and reveal out like that. And we can have that move happen at the same time as it's moving to the left. So that's what I'm going to be doing with this. I'm going to use the seal to kind of drive the reveal of the VCU. I'm just going to ease this position animation right now. That's a good start. Okay, so how are we going to reveal the VCU? I'm going to use a track mat, which is going to be a solid that's going to be put right behind this seal right here. And what I'm going to do too is I'm just going to use the V as a kind of parent for the 3 letters. So I'm going to parent the C and the U to the V. So now when I move the V, all of them move together. So I know that the spacing will stay the same no matter what. Okay, great. So what I want to do is really have the VCU come from behind the seal. So right now at this position it'll be hidden and then come out like that as the seal moves. But first, before I do that, I want to just make a solid, mask it, and create a track mat for the letters. So I'll hit Command or Control Y to make a solid. I can use this color, it's not going to matter. We're not going to see it anyway. I'm going to use the rectangle tool right now just to make a quick mask like that of that layer, the solid layer. I'm going to move it up right here and then move it over so it's about at the halfway point of the circle, about like that. I'm going to put it behind the seal so it's easier to see. There we go. Now that's going to become the track mat for the VCU. That's why it's long like this, so that the VCU can be entirely filled up inside that mat. So if you see how, if I move this, it'll be hidden. And I also want to parent this solid, it's going to have to move with everything else. So I just take the pick whip, placement null. So now when it moves, the solid moves with it. That's perfect. I'm just going to put the solid actually behind the VCU. So when I make the VCU animation, it's easy to see what's happening. Okay, so I'll start with the V. I'll set a position keyframe right here. That's where it's going to end up. So I'll move it down here, and I'll just move it to the left like this. So we're going to have to do a little bit of matching to make sure that the velocities match. So the VCU is moving kind of counter to the placement null to let it reveal itself. So now that we have that, I'm going to make the VCU letters a track mat of the red solid. Let me just use the pick whips right here. So I'll select these 3 layers and then use a pick whip to select the red solid. Now it goes away, and this is being revealed right now because this is where the solid is. The the opacity, the opaqueness of that layer is what's revealing the VCU. So now you can see how it disappears because that's where the track mat, the solid, ends. So we just need to invert that, and it's that switch right here next to the track mat button, the alpha mat selection. So now as it moves out, it gets revealed. There we go. Now I just need to finesse the animation for the VCU. Go into the graph editor, hit the ease button on this. I'm not gonna do a lot of easing for the beginning, but I'm gonna do a lot for the end. So what's happening here is the graph editor velocity for the placement null for the position, the peak velocity is different for both of these. So if I just command select the position and the position of the V, these are the 2 animations kind of going against each other right now. So the way to do this is to match up these peaks of peak velocity. That's what's kind of happening right now. That's why it's looking kind of unbalanced, really. And the way to do that is really, we can either move the VCU, the peak velocity, to be at the same time like that, which could help, and that could be a good way to do it. Let's see. Maybe. Takes a little bit too long, in my opinion. So I think what I'm going to do actually is give the VCU some initial easing acceleration so that I can match the velocity peak with the placement null. Like that. About like that. There we go. So now they're both hitting their peak velocities around the same time, and that's going to make it look a lot smoother. Let's go from the beginning. Takes a little bit too long to happen. I think as far as like doing a logo reveal at the end of a commercial, you'd want it to be a little faster. And the easy thing about that is you can just collapse the seal animation. Okay, I think that's fine. It's really more about when the VCU and the placement null start moving at the same time. That's nice because you kind of want, it'd be nice to have the seal animation kind of ending while also overlapping with the movement of the placement null. That's not bad. I can make this a little bit shorter actually. That's kind of cool. So it's really still moving. Stuff is still resolving while it starts to move to the left, and that's nice. That overlapping animation can be really pleasing. That's too much, I think. Let's see. About like that. And then now what we want to do too is have it scoot over just a little bit more to make room for the School of Public Health, whatever the school name is. So now because we have everything parented to the placement null, we know that spacing is going to be the same. So we're going to want to have another move from the placement null really, which is nice because then we can just copy and paste that keyframe to give it this pause, and then we can have it move over further like that. Okay, so now here's a problem that's also easily fixable because of this placement null. This is too big for the final screen. If we're going to try and make this a complete end card with the school name, it's going to be too large to fit everything. Now instead of having to go back and mess with the scale animation of the seal and everything like that, all we need to do is just scale down the placement null until it works. So now the only keyframe we need to fix is this last one right here of how far it moves over. About like that. Go back into the graph editor and just finesse this animation to have it ease out after it's paused. And we'll use this movement right here to reveal the words with another track mat, which is another trick I like to use a lot when revealing words for companies or for titles or anything. I do think there's a little bit too much of a space, honestly, between the VCU and then this right here. So I just decrease that amount of time between the pause and then the reveal. Okay, so now we've got that done. What I'm going to do is make another solid with Command or Control Y and bring this, just for now, underneath everything so I can mask out the solid so that I can use it to reveal the words. Just like that. And then we'll parent that to the placement null. Okay, so I'm just going to name this too. Now I've got that. I'm just going to make the School of Public Health layer, have that be a track mat to this text mat. So now if we move the layer down, it disappears. And that'll be how we reveal it. It'll come up like that. But I'm going to do it in a way that I think is really pleasing to the eye, and it's a really nice trick to use when you're bringing words on a screen. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to make a simple position animation. So I set the keyframe to where it's going to end, and I'm going to just animate it to be moving down to come up like that. And I'm just going to finesse it really quickly with the graph editor. Nice. That's great. And then the last trick is to mask out each word and then offset the animations. So we'll have actually 4 layers: school, of, population, health. That'll be the 4 different layers. So now we have it all set up. I'm going to just give this a label color. I'm going to hit Command D and duplicate this 4 times. So now we have 4 animations of the layer. And I'm going to use the rectangle tool to mask out each word for each layer. So the first one, I'm going to mask out the word school, like that. Second one will be of. Third one's population. And then health. So now we have masked out layers of each word, and they're also animated. And right now they all come up together. But all we need to do now is offset this by a couple frames. So I'm going to shift select these 3 and just move them down 2 frames, and then control select that one to deselect it, move that one down 2 frames, this one down 2 frames. Now watch. Because we've got the animation done already, we can just duplicate and then mask out each letter or each word and give it a nice little, I call this offset timing, where it's the same animation just repeated, and it gives a nice little just classiness to word and title reveals. Now even maybe just a little bit more too. Maybe just like maybe 4 frames. Now takes too long, but that's fine. We can just select these layers, hit U to reveal the animated parameters, and then select these last keyframes and just move them to be closer. That's almost too fast. That's kind of nice. Now you can see it's really easy to customize and speed up and slow down like that. Actually, I think there's too much of an offset now. So I'm just going to bring this 1 frame closer. That's nice. So what's happening now, because we changed the animations, I think this spacing right here is off. It should be more centered. And that's easy. We can just go into the position animation right here in the graph editor, and instead of going to the speed graph, we go into the value graph, and it's these 2 keyframes right here. This X value is what we need to change. So I can just highlight these 2 and move them until it feels like it's in the middle, about like right there. So the animation stays the same. We just change the value of these 2 keyframes right here. That's really nice. The only thing right now, in my opinion, I think the VCU comes out too slowly now. So I'm just going to bring this keyframe to be closer. So now the timing of the velocity is all messed up. So let's go back into the speed graph for these 2. It's this thing right here. That's what's making it look weird. It's got to match the peak velocities of both of these animations. So I'm actually going to take this one and just reduce that to be like that. And we can use the playhead as a guide. There we go. That's nice. That's a really nice logo reveal. Okay. There we go. There is the VCU School of Population Health logo animation.